Alright, before we get into the video, I do want to give a couple of pointers. Number one, when I build MiyoLinux, I always use an Ethernet cable when I first start building all the way until I produce the ISO. I will mention that later on in this first video, but I wanted to go ahead and let that be known because I did forget to mention it at the beginning of the video. So hopefully, if you're interested in doing something like this, you have an Ethernet cable that you can use for the entire build. And when I say the entire build, I mean from the time you begin the build until you produce the ISO. Also, I want to point out that the way that I build MiyoLinux, I don't build it in a virtual box, virtual machine. I have designated partitions on my hard drive that I use to build MiyoLinux, and I don't use a swap space. I also touch on that later in the video. But I felt it was important to go ahead and mention that. So with that said, we will get into the video. Alright, thanks. This will be the first part in a video series where I show how I make MiyoLinux, and we'll just jump right into it. Now, I've often said I am no VirtualBox guru. I've done the best I can to get this scaled so it'd be a little easier for you guys to see. I hope that's okay the way it looks right now. Let's just start off. What I do is I get a net install of a Devuan ISO, and that's where I go. I start there with a net install. Now, I am not going to show the entire installation process of the net install. If you want to see, this is basically the same as installing Devuan. So I'm not going to show the whole installation. If you want to see a Devuan installation, I would recommend you go over and watch Esnick's. He has some good videos about that. But what I do want to point out is what I do is I go to the advanced options. Right there, the advanced. Go to expert install. And what this does is it allows me to choose whether or not to use non-free firmware. Now this is weird. Must be a VirtualBox thing. I don't know. That kind of blew my mind there. Okay, we're all right. Okay, sorry about that. I've never seen that happen before. Anyway, the expert install allows you to choose non-free firmware, and it allows you to disable the sources repositories in your sources list, which I always like to do that. And actually on the Devuan net installs, if you use the expert mode, you can choose whether to use sysvinit or oh God, I can't remember what that other init's called. Anyway, there's another init you can choose. Oh gosh, I'm sorry about that. It'll come to me in a minute and I'll think about it. So I'm going to stop right here. I'm not going to video the whole installation, but I will come back when I get to a certain point that I want you to see how I handle a certain section of the installer. Alright, so I will be back momentarily for you guys. Okay, I came back earlier than I thought I would. First of all, that other init system is OpenRC. With the Devuan net install, you can choose to use either sysvinit or OpenRC. Sorry about that earlier. I did want to show this section right here. When I build MiyoLinux, I have several very small partitions on my hard drive. I don't build MiyoLinux in a virtual box. I build it on my actual hard drive. And what I do is I just install the system onto one of the partitions without including a swap partition. I believe the refractor tools have compensated for that. It used to be if you had a swap partition on your hard drive that was designated for the root partition you were building your ISO on, it would cause some problems. So I just kind of got into the habit of building my systems on a single partition without using a swap partition whatsoever. So let me go ahead and I will create the partition. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, lost my keyboard there for a second. Now, this is the first time I've done this in VirtualBox, so I don't know how it's going to go. MS-DOS, because this is a BIOS. This is really confusing me. Oops, I don't know what I did. Maybe I had to highlight that one. Create a new partition. Yes. Primary. Hey, I'm learning along with you guys. Use as ext4, mount point as root, blah blah blah. Done setting up the partition. Alright, let's finish it. Alright, see here it's saying, hey, you don't have a swap partition. You need to go back and make one. Otherwise, your system's going to have a nervous jerk down. No, I don't want to return to the partitioning menu because I don't want a swap partition. Right, changes to disk, yes. Okay, we got past that, so I will be back when I get to the next portion of the installation where I want to talk about a certain thing. I will be back momentarily for you guys. Okay, I wanted to show this to you real quick. This is another thing that I do. When I get to this part about including the drivers, I include all the available drivers because it's for MiyoLinux. It's not just for this computer. So I just wanted to point that out. Alright, so we'll go ahead and click enter on the keyboard. Okay, here we are at what I consider the most important part. This is where you choose your software, which desktop environment you want or whatever. Now what I do is I remove, well, there are asterisks here. Remove the asterisk from everything except standard system utilities. So I'm going to remove the one from Devuan desktop environment. I say I am. There it went. Print services, and I'm going to leave the one on standard system utilities there and continue, and I will be back momentarily. Okay, I've just finished installing Grub on VirtualBox here. Hope everything went fine. I will say again that I am not a VirtualBox guru, and I don't know what's going to happen when I hit continue here. I know I have to remove the disk. So what I'm going to do to save myself further embarrassment is pause the video while I do all this, and if I'm successful I will come back momentarily. Okay, thanks. Okay, it booted directly into this. I'm not sure if I did everything right or not, to be honest. Okay, it says it's empty. I didn't remove it. I'm not sure what happened here, but I'll take it, and hopefully everything's okay. Alright, now I want you to notice here, this is an issue with Devuan. You see it says Debian here on the Grub screen. You're going to have that. So just be aware of that if you install like this with Devuan. So let's go ahead and we will click enter and get started. And you will see this beautiful, let's see if I can stretch this out a little more. I'm serious, guys. I don't know hardly anything about VirtualBox, so if you're rolling your eyes at me, I understand. It's no big deal, because I don't know what I'm doing. Alright, here is the installed system. This is exactly what it will look like if you do what I just did with a net install. If you recall, I removed all the check marks where you chose a desktop environment, and this is what you get. A full screen TTY1. It's beautiful, but this is where the magic happens, baby. So let's go ahead and log in. Enter our password. Become root with SU, Sue. Enter our root password. And the first thing I always do is double check my sources list, just to make sure everything looks good. So nano etc apt sources list, and everything does appear to look the way I want it to. So what I'm going to do is get rid of all these extra lines that I don't need. Control K will delete those lines. Control K. Just keep hitting Control K. What I'm going to do now is come down one line with my arrow key and bring that line up. Now I'm going to scroll down with my arrow key and get rid of all these lines with Control K. And Control X to save it. Let's see, I can't see what's going on. There it is. Do I want to save that? And click Y on the keyboard for yes and hit enter. Now let me go back up to the top if I can find my mouse. There it is. I'm going to type in clear. You can't see me typing it in. Alright, here we go. Now the first thing I do is install firmware Linux. And I have no idea how long this kind of stuff is going to last. I'm sure VirtualBox is taxing my machine. Yes, I want to install that. And I have no way of knowing if I am. Let me scroll that down so I can get down there at the bottom where I can see what's going on. And I apologize, I am not the best conversationalist in the world, and I probably won't say a lot of stuff while things like this are going on. I hope you can bear with me though. I think what I will do is just leave everything down here at the bottom instead of scrolling back up to the top again, just so you can see exactly what's happening. And while we're waiting on this, I did forget to mention one important thing. I might make a note, I might make a little slide at the beginning of the video that explains this. Very important, this is what I do from the time I do the installation until I have finished everything. I'm talking about everything. From the time I start the installation until I have produced the actual ISO, I only use Ethernet. And there's a reason for that. The refractor tools will copy over your wireless information if you're not careful. So to avoid all of that, from the time I begin the installation until I produce the ISO, I only use Ethernet, just to avoid all of that. So that's one thing you might want to keep in mind if you want to produce an ISO to share with other people and you want to do it the way that this is done. Just try and remember to use an Ethernet cable for all of your work. Alright, next thing I do is install Xorg. And since this is for MiyoLinux, I don't use the minimal Xorg. I just go ahead and install Xorg. Because I want it to be as useful to as many computers as possible. Alright, 399 megabytes of additional space will be used, and 93, they have to download 90, might as well say 94 megabytes from the archives. And just hit enter on the keyboard for yes. And I am going to pause the video while this is going on. Be right back. Okay, Xorg is installed. Now I do want to say I'm not doing this by notes. If I don't have any notes that I'm going to be able to post along with these videos, so you might want to take some notes if you're really interested. I wish I did, but I've done this so often I just pretty much do everything by memory, so I do apologize for that. Xorg is finished, so the next thing that I install is a display manager. Now if you use Slim, if you want to use Slim, there's nothing you need to do, just apt install Slim. But for the sake of anyone who might be interested, I'm going to install LightDM, because not only is there a specific command that I use, but there's also some things that if you're using Devuan and you want to use LightDM, at least at this point right now, you're going to have to edit a certain file later on. So I'm going to go ahead and install LightDM, and what I do is apt, I don't have my keyboard here, let's try it now, apt install LightDM, no install recommends. Now the reason I do that If I just did an apt install LightDM, it would also bring in desktop base. And since this is MiyoLinux, I don't want it to have I don't want it to have the Devuan, or actually to be Debian at this point. I don't want it to have the theming that comes along with the parent distro. And what this does, it'll install LightDM, it'll save a lot of disk space also, but it also doesn't bring in desktop base. Alright, so apt install LightDM no install recommends. Oh, I didn't type it right, I'm sorry. Left the N out. There we go. Let's try that again. Alright, if you see right there in the recommended packages, it's saying, I want desktop base. No, we don't. And if you also notice, it's only going to install or use 1,850, not even 2 megabytes of additional disk space. If you were to just install LightDM, that'd be a lot larger. Okay, here we go. Enter. Now, after this is finished, the next thing that I do is install whichever window manager or desktop environment that I want to use. In the case of this video, and to keep things simple, I'm just going to install Openbox. Now, Openbox, it brings in a lot more packages now than it used to, but just for the sake of this video, I'm just going to apt install Openbox. If I were actually building an Openbox system, which that is my next, yes, I want to do that. That is my next build. I would probably try it with no install recommends. I'm trying to look over that. See, it's bringing in OB session. I won't need that. If you're not sure what OB session is, it's just a logout utility, logout and shutdown utility. And I didn't get to see everything else it was bringing in. If I glanced right, it seemed like it was bringing in around, it was going to use around 44 megabytes of disk space. I'm not sure if I caught that correctly. It used to not be that large. That's the thing with every release of Debian and therefore Devuan. The packages get larger and the resource usage is higher. When I first built the first release of MiyoLinux back in 2016, the ISO was only like 400 and something megabytes, and now it's up there around 700, over 700 megabytes, and I don't really do anything whatsoever different. Alright, the next package I install is PCMan-FM, and I use the no install recommends flag on that. And I actually remembered to put the N in there. And it's going to take up 600 or almost 7,000 kilobytes of additional disk space. Oh dear. Now, because I installed this with no install recommends, I also need to install the package LiveFM Modules. And what that package does, if you're familiar with PCman FM, over on the left hand side in the toolbar you can click on applications and it will show your different categories, and you can open an application from within PCman FM that way. So I install apt install libfm modules gvfs, and I've just recently started installing gvfs backends because that's what's needed for cell phones to be able to open up inside the file manager. Okay, I think I'll try to leave the recording going. See how fast this goes. And if I'm not talking, it's like I said earlier, I'm not good at just talking off the cuff about stuff. So forgive me. Now what I plan to do is to make this video in like 3 or maybe 4 different parts. Like this first video is going to be the actual installation of the base system, and now we're installing the actual packages we need. And the next video I plan to kind of get things set up in the actual environment that we're installing, do a little bit of customization. I'm not going to go all out for these videos because it's up to you as the user to be able to customize your system the way you want, even if you're maybe planning to share this with other people. You know, if you're wanting to build a distro or a respin and you're wanting to share it with other people, you're going to put your own spin on it, and you're going to put your own tastes and what you like and what you don't like, you're going to leave out. So what I plan to do is not do a whole lot of customization, but do enough just to kind of show you the process that I'm going through, and hopefully that'll help you as you take this journey with me. Now after this, we're going to get into installing a lot of different packages. And when I say a lot, it's really not a lot. But it'll be a lot of typing and a lot of time spent watching the terminal here. And since I'm doing Openbox, I think I will go ahead and show how to install Ob Menu Generator. That might be a good thing for some people who are interested in having a menu that will automatically show and remove applications whenever they're installed or removed. Alright, we're almost there. I don't know if you just heard that, but my stomach growled. Alright, I'm going to take just a moment and take a drink of my coffee. This video is actually I don't know if you saw my quarantine Q&A video that I made, but the first question was someone asked if I could help them build their own distro. And I kind of made a joke out of it. I just said, yes. But that's what this video series is about. I did contact the guy and told him I'd be making some videos that would hopefully help him. And so that's what this is all about. And, you know, if there are other people who are interested and this is going to help them too, then that's just fantastic. All right, we're finished with that. All right, now we get into all the fun, adding all the fun packages. Let's see, apt install GNOME themes standard, and what that does is that brings in a Devuan and a Devuan dark. Let's see, LX input, LX R&R. I don't know if I need to be explaining what each of these packages are. If you're somewhat familiar with Linux, then you probably know. I think if something really stands out that might look a little strange, I might go ahead and describe it. I used to install numlock X, but I don't do that anymore. I do leave a note in the release notes that if you want your number lock turned on at system startup, you need to install numlock X. Okay, mlocate, I always install that. Let's see, I'll install mousepad for the text editor just for this demonstration. LX terminal and GTK2 engines. And I'm going to stop right there for this part. Go ahead and hit enter. Shouldn't take very long. Yes. And the reason I stop there is there's another GTK2 engine that I install, but I use no install recommends on it. And that is GTK2 Engines Marine. If you don't use no install recommends, it pulls in all of those Marine themes. And I don't want that on MiyoLinux. You might want it. If you do want it, then go ahead. Don't use the no install recommends. My friend Stans that makes the mini I2P Mimo and mini P2P Mimo, his systems are even more minimal than the ones I make. He does a lot of what he installs with the no install recommends. Okay, apt install GTK2 engines marine -- no -- install recommends. And that should only take a second. After this, I can put in a whole bunch of different packages that I install. Since we're going to add ob menu generator, we need apt install cpan minus get make let's see, ntp date. I always install zip, unzip. I believe tar is already installed, but I'm going to go ahead and put it there just in case. I think that gets pulled in with Xorg now. Let's see, LX appearance and LX appearance -obconf. Let's see what else. XFCE4 notify D. XFCE4 power manager. XFCE4 power manager plugins. UFW bleach bit. I always use bleach bit to clean the system up. It does help make the ISOs smaller. If you've ever wondered why does he include bleach bit on his systems, that's why. It helps get rid of a lot of cruft and helps make the ISOs smaller. And bleach bit does a great job of doing what it's intended to do also. I use bleach bit all the time on my own systems. Let's see, I need nitrogen for handling wallpapers. Let's get Synaptic GDebi. That's the GDebi package installer. DMZ-cursor theme. I might need Tint 2. I might need volume icon -also, and I might need Compton and Conky, and I might need also utils. I'm going to go ahead and install PAVU control that will automatically pull in Pulse audio, and I'm doing that simply for the fact if you want to try this and you want to include Pulse audio and PAVU control, just as I mentioned earlier about LightDM, there's one file you will need to edit in order for Pulse audio to work on your system. I normally install, well, I'll install it, TTF Deja Vu. I can't remember what the Ubuntu fonts are called. I normally install Ubuntu fonts, and I can't remember what they're called. I'm going to put Ubuntu font family. I don't think that's right. Let's see, YAD. I use YAD for all my little GUIs that I make. Anything else? I think PSMISC is already installed. PSMISC is needed for the kill all command. ACPID. Normally, if I were actually building a system, I would include locales-all, but I'm not going to include that here. You might want to make a note of that. Anything xserver-xorg input synaptics. That's for being able to control your mouse pad. And I think I will install I'll do the papyrus icon theme. I think that's right. You know, I think that's TTF Ubuntu. Well, it's something. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and it'll tell me if it can't find a package. Oh, I misspelled cpan minus, and Ubuntu font family is wrong, so let's do my up arrow to repeat all that. Let me find cpan minus. It's up there at the top. If you can't see what's going on, I'm scrolling through with my arrow going all the way back to the top. cpan -us with an S. Alright, where's that Ubuntu? I'm going to try TTF Ubuntu just to see if that works. That's probably not right either. If that's not right, I'm just going to forget it. Okay. There is an Ubuntu font package, and I just can't remember exactly what it's called. Alright, I just erased it. And I'm going to hit enter. Okay, yeah, PSMIC is already installed. Whoa, look at all that. Oh dear, 719. Alright, I'm going to hit enter to get this started and pause the video until it's finished, okay? I will be back when this is finished installing. Okay, all those packages have finished, and while that was going on, I remembered two packages that hey, just a moment. Let's do this. App search Ubuntu. Hope it doesn't go off screen. Oh my word. Okay, let's do this. Apt search Ubuntu font. See if that'll give me any results. Oh my word. There we go. Fonts Ubuntu. That's what it's called. Okay. I thought of two other packages. Apt install CMST. That's the network manager that I include in MiyoLinux. Lib GTK3 Perl. That is needed for the installer. If that package is not included, the installer, like in the areas where you fill in your locale, your time zone, your keyboard layout, all that stuff will just be an ncurses window. So libgtk3 Perl allows you to have an actual GUI. And let's go ahead and install fonts Ubuntu. And this is going to be the end of the first video in the series. Yes, go ahead and do that. After these finish installing, I'm going to reboot and we will start configuring the system. However, that won't happen for me until tomorrow, and it'll be up to you whether you want to go ahead and move on to the next video right away or not. But I wanted to give this is how I build MiyoLinux. I start with a net install, remove all those check marks when you choose a desktop environment, and just leave the one for standard system utilities. And what you get is a very base system, and when you reboot, you boot into the TTY, and it's up to you to install what you want on it. Now, you don't have to do it this way. If you want to install a desktop environment and still know how to include the refractor tools so that you can build your own ISO and share it with others, then you can absolutely do that. Alright, we're almost finished. Alright, I can't remember, do I Do I need to log out of root? Let me exit out of root. And since this is Devuan and it's using elognd, we will try this. I might have to log back in as root. Log in control reboot. Okay, I do need to be root. I'm sorry. Login control reboot. And there you go. So that's it. That's all the hard work right there. Now all the long work will be in the next video. Alright, so you guys take care and you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.